Evening, folks. Here, let me see if I can adjust this to get a little bit better. There we go. So, as you can see tonight, we are not watching me stand in front of the wall doing all kinds of silly stuff. We are sitting here with a whole bunch of crap on my table. So, everyday KT number 57. We're talking about how to make kilt pins. We are going to learn how to turn this, a huge block of lead-free pewter, into this, a really cool little key fob, or this, a headless Kiltman, or any one of these, which are all kilt pins that I've made over the years. Some of the coolest ones, we've shown these before. Got this right here, our first anniversary pin. Whoop, let me hold it. A whole lot cooler. I made those. So, the first thing, and we're only going to do part of it here, just how to get the mold done. The first thing we do is you actually have to have something to make a pin. So, as I've shown you before, here's one I had someone make for me. A master of what it is you're going to make. So you need something that you're going to cast. If you have any kind of this thing's really getting annoying. If you have any kind of carving skills, you can use wood. I've made challenge coins out of wood. But the easiest thing is you get molding clay. Basically, you know the kind of clay you can mold and you put it in the oven and it gets hard, like the shrinky dink type stuff when you were kids. That's what this is right here. Whoops. Hope I don't break it. Nope. It's almost indestructible, but it's just a piece of clay. It's a polymerized clay, so it's a little plasticky, that I carved into the little Kiltman. And that will become this. And there's all kinds of different steps, but the first thing you need to do is you have to make a mold. So as you can see, I've got a couple of molds here that I've done. Mark, if you have no carving skills, find someone who does. I'm fairly certain there are thousands, if not millions, of people who can carve things. So this is a mold. It's made of RTV, which is it's a rubber of some sort. Two-piece mold, as you can see. This is the one for that cool Kiltman, or the cool Scotchman pin. It's the mold I made for this, for that guy. This is by a company called Castaldo. It's called Quicksil. I know it's backwards, but this is what I use. It's a two-piece RTV jewelry molding rubber, and it comes in two pieces. 1-to-1. I did try another one that I saw. It was red. And let me show you the difference. You look at this mold here. You see how it's bumpy, but it's pretty soft. Yes, brother to the kilt, tartan kilt. When I get to pouring the pewter, I'll use I'll use one of my utility kilts because pewter is hot and it eats kilts pretty good. But back to the rubber. See, this stuff, look here, looks pretty soft, or not soft, but it looks pretty smoothish, and you can see where the pewter goes right here and here where the two pieces mix or meet. I did try this stuff. I don't remember what it was. It was a one-time deal, and it came out like crap. As you can see, it looks like basically a piece of the moon or something like that. Lava rocks. And I think I cast 2 out of this red stuff. And I was like, the hell with it. Yeah, it's even got a piece of pewter still stuck in it for some reason. And this was probably 10 years ago. It's still rubbery, but it wasn't very good. So, you got this Castaldo stuff. And as you can see, one's green, one's white, and they come in these containers and they're full. As you can see, red and white, or green and white. And they do that on purpose so that you get two pieces. You want equal parts of this mold stuff. So we're going to make the bottom half of the mold. So the stuff's great because it takes 15 minutes to cure. Downside for our purposes is it takes 15 minutes to cure. And as much as I'd like to think, you probably don't want to listen to me bullshit for 15 minutes while rubber dries. So I'm going to do the bottom half tonight on the air, and then I'll just finish it up. I'll probably make one or maybe two of them so that the next couple episodes I can show you how to actually pour and finish up the molds and then actually pour your own kilt pin. Hey Ian, good to see you, bud. So first thing you do is you have to come up with your master. We've already established that. Here it is right here. We're going to make this into a kilt pin. The next thing you need to do is get your molding rubber, 2-part, boom, equal size, equal parts. Yep, there we go. So as you can see, the next thing we need to do is find some kind of container. You can't just mash it together and hope it sticks. So when I bought my pewter, or the melting pot here, it came with this, which is an aluminum block, which is what they suggest you make your molds into. Well, I thought that was a little big. So I got a hose clamp and a couple of pieces of a larger hose clamp, and I made this little jig. It's about the right size because this right here, as you can see, is the old mold that I use for my kilt pins. As you can see, the rubber is burned right out. It's got some really good detail. I've probably made 150, 200 out of this, but this piece is fine. This piece right here, you'll see, starting to crack, which means that crack is filling with pewter, and it makes this weird ridge on the back of the kilt pins that I've had to sand off. So I'm making a new one. So first thing you do, you take your rubber stuff, 2 pieces. I like to just take half of it at a time and mix it together. You just mix it together. It's like silly putty. Mix it together. Make sure it's even. It turns a funky color of light green once it's mixed properly. Now, this stuff does cure in 15 minutes. So in 15 minutes, it goes from this to this. Solid rubber. It's like those old school erasers. Mike, I've had that. I had that done. That's what I had somebody carve my master for my kilt pin. So, because my carving skills I mean, I can make stuff work, but for the quality that I want, I don't have the patience with myself. So, and casting is pretty easy. So, as you can see, when all said and done, you have these 2 pieces here. This was the original, and you can see this. It's about somewhere in the middle. So what you do is you take your whatever you're going to put the mold into on something that's non-porous. It's not going to adhere to the bottom of it. Otherwise, it'll stick right to it, and that sucks. And you just press it into the bottom. Now, if it's not very thick, see this one, as you can see here, doesn't go very far into that thing. So it needs more. So, like I said, I just always do it in 2 steps just to make sure that I have enough. So I just take all of it out, and all of it gets mixed into this nice little, a happy little ball for those Bob Ross fans out there. So you mix it all up, rip it apart, kind of like you're making some really hard rolls, and the dough is just kind of, it's not very floury, so just mix it up really good. Actually, it was not, I think the piece on the outside is a hose clamp, I don't actually know. I think it was one of those, it was half of a pipe joiner. We have a like 4-inch sewer pipe, and we have two of these next to each other with a big piece of rubber in the center. Cost a couple of bucks over at Lowe's. I think that's what it was. The inside of this was a big piece of rubber. Pulled that out, and then I had this thing. So actually, that is exactly what it was. So over in plumbing, how much for the pins? I will be making them. Yep. So see this right here? Let me go the thing. This corrugated section right here is actually pinned right here, there, and there. So the hose clamp does stay on this. I cut this little V for a pour spout, and this all comes with a piece of rubber on the inside that goes over to join two pieces of PVC piping. So you can get it at Lowe's, Home Depot, stuff like that. So as you've been working this stuff for a while, it gets really soft, really pliable. Make sure your hose clamp is flat. And you want to make sure that whatever it is you're casting will fit in the middle. So as you can see, the little pin, you want to make sure there's plenty of room, because remember, you're putting hot pewter into this thing. Make sure there's plenty of room. If you want to use something this big and you have plenty of rubber, then that's fine. Use something big. But this is, as you can see, how thick this piece of rubber is and how thick this one is. They're half an inch or more. Otherwise, it'll bleed through and pop through the rubber when you're casting the mold, or you're casting the kilt. So you just get careful of that. I didn't say how much the price was because I haven't sold them in quite some time. I don't know. It might be something. It wouldn't be more than $10. I don't remember how much they were. They were on my shop for a long time. So first step, take this stuff here. See, it's already starting to set up a little bit. Try to get as much of the air pockets out. And you cram it into this thing. Now you want it halfway up. Let's see if I can do this so you guys can see it. Where did that? It's always good to have a sheet of aluminum handy. So, looks like there's too much in there. Take a little bit off. Cram it in there. You want it to fill up the cavity about halfway full. Now, this is where it gets interesting because you've only got a few more minutes to go. All right, here we go. So there's two ways to do this. The first way, I'm doing it this way because the back, the two ways. You can either put your master in first and then cover it, or fill your mold shape and press your item into it. Now I'm doing it the second way because the back of my master, it has a little bit of texture to it, but nothing that really matters to the mold. This is basically a one-sided mold. So the back of it doesn't really matter that much. So there is the stuff that they sell that comes with the that you can get with your mold rubber, and it's a release cream. What this does is this prevents the rubber from sticking to whatever you're using. And it's a little weird, and you got to make sure that it's not going to eat the master. And this is just putty or clay of sorts, so I'm not worried about it. Just put a little bit on there, and you want to press it in so that, if you can see that, press it in so the side of the rubber comes up halfway. And that way, when you do the second half, it makes a good mold. It makes a good tight seal on the rubber. Now, the one thing you can't forget is you have to do what they call registration holes. If you'll look on this one, you'll see how you have the mold there, but you have those two holes. That is so the other side has two little bumps so that it only goes together one way and it fits perfectly every time. So all you do, grab a pencil with no eraser, I'm pretty sure most people have one of these, and just push it into the rubber a couple different places. So when you're done, this is what it looks like. See? You have the mold rubber in the vessel, the shape, the whatever you want to call it, mold form, I guess. Then you have your master pressed into the RTV rubber, and you have your registration holes. So you let this sit for 15 minutes, and when that thing is nice and done, yeah, I think I was playing with the rubber a little too long. It's starting to set up already, so it's trying to push the mold out. Okay, we're fine there. This extra piece right here, it's trash. You can't do anything with it. It's already, as you can see, it's losing its stretch and it's just pulling apart, like unlike what it was just a few moments ago. So as that sets, let me show you what happens next. The stuff that I'm going to do off camera. So once this sets and this firms up, I'm going to do the exact same thing for the other side. And what I'll do, first thing I'll do is take this release agent and completely coat this side of the mold. Okay, so all of that, everything you see there will be covered in this release agent. What that does is that allows the other half of the mold to get pressed in and it won't stick, but it will contour to this perfectly. As long as you've got the ratio right to the two-part RTV compound. So I'll press that in and I'll let that sit. So tomorrow, what we'll have is we will have this. Basically a little green hockey puck. But when you open it up, boom, it'll have a cavity inside that will have the master. So once the master gets pulled out, it'll have a cavity just like this, which is an exact replica of the master that we're going to make. The very next thing you do after it's cured, you pull the master out of the mold, is you get an X-Acto knife or a razor blade or something, and you need to carve a notch so you can pour the pewter in. See how you have the back of the mold there? But you look at the top and that's the pour hole. Now, sometimes, as you can see, if it's big enough, you can just carve on one side. I don't think I have any others that I carved both sides. Yeah, this one. On this one, because the mold, the end result is going to be so thin, I actually carved into both pieces of rubber. So that's how you get the rubber part of the mold done. This right here is my old melting pot. It's designed to, it's a 10-pound pot. It's made originally for lead, but pewter and lead melt at roughly the same temperatures. Pewter's a little bit hotter. So it works just fine. Tomorrow, if I do this tomorrow, maybe the next day, I'll show you how we actually cast it. The one other thing that we have to have, of course, you gotta have a big tray for the pewter in case of spillage. You gotta have pewter, of course. And you have to have something to hold the mold together. That's not your fingers. I also use welding gloves, and sometimes I use an apron if I'm doing an awful lot of casting. So you just grab these. As you can see, if you look right there inside, that's residue from the last time I used them. And this actually had two of these right here, these little pivots, but I cut one off and I put this flat piece because the ridges were causing problems with one of the molds I was using. So I just did that instead. So all you do is you have this piece here, which is your mold. with your hole, with the hole in there to pour. Slap that in there, and you want to use the large, wide spring clamps because they give you enough ease of use and command, so you can just go like this really easy. But it gives you enough pressure so that when you pour the pewter into the mold, it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't leak out the sides. It doesn't come out. So we're going to be making a couple of these. And you also don't want to go much bigger than this because if you're using a melting pot like this one, you got to have enough room to get under the nozzle right here, or the spigot, whichever you want to call it, because it gets poured into that. The newer pots like this, they work like a champ. This one, on the other hand, I've had this one for 10, 12 years. As you can see, the top of it's a little rusty because it's been in my garage or in my basement here. And the spigot has a little bit of a drip when it's fully hot. So I always have a brownie pan or a cookie pan like this underneath it to catch any splatter. Again, the best thing to use, I say, is this RTV. It's the rubber. You can get really creative in what you use. At one point, I showed these to you before, but a friend of mine made molds out of sheets of magnesium that I've used many, many times for kilt pins. So that is how you make the first half of a kilt pin mold. It's already firming up. As you can see, I'm sitting here, I'm trying to poke into it and it's not really letting me. So it does, it shows you how quickly it firms up. I am going to let it sit for probably a full half an hour just to be 100% certain. There was a couple of times that I tried to jump the gun and it was a complete waste. As you can see, I've got tons of molds. I've got tons over here. I've got some more over here for other projects that I've done. I've got more. They're all over the place. So that is what we're doing as far as kilt pin molds. Now, I think, just because 5 or 6 of you have actually stuck through this the whole time, I am actually going to, next time we do this and we actually pour the kilt pins, I think I'm going to have to give a few away. So, those of you who are on here, pay attention. The next time, when I'll actually announce it, when we actually do the pours, I'm going to give away a bunch of these kilt pins. So, you'll want to stick around. Oh, I forgot to mention, the way that we go from what comes out of this to this, sorry, to that is a shaker. It's a vibrator. It's a bowl. It's about this big. It's full of stones, and it vibrates like hell. And what it does is it slowly takes all the edges off of the pewter. It smooths it out, and it does exactly what I've been trying to do for years. I used to use oxidizers. I used to use a lot of different things, trying to make it look like an old Nordic rune stone that you might pick out of the ground or pick up, you know, at an archaeological finding. Just old looking, cool, you know, very, very rustic, rough looking. Looks like it's been through hell a couple of times. That was the whole thing behind making these, because you can get really ornate, fancy kilt pins everywhere, but ones that look like they've been through the ringer, not so much. So I have this jewelry vibrating finisher out in the garage, and you set in, you know, 10, 20, 30 of these, put them in there, and it takes all night for them. You just turn it on and you get out of the garage because the thing's loud. So, but I'll show you that stuff next time. I do need somebody to throw out a kiltology so that I can avail you of old school wisdom. Not avail. That's the wrong word. Anyway, so somebody throw me up a volume for kiltology, and we'll see where we go. And yes, this is an old castle-y keep style replica that somebody gave me. And it was all hand done. It was very cool. Oh, Doug, I have not written volume 3 yet. I know you guys are keep asking about that. So, Angela wins with volume 2. Let's see what we got. Motivation. Ooh. This is a good one. Motivation. Kiltology number 268. Motivation. People are motivated by many things. A few things that are sure to motivate almost any kiltie are more kilts and kilted stuff, obviously, free kilt inspections, superbly crafted kilts and accessories, free kilt inspections, kilt gatherings over a beverage, your choice, alcohol or not. You don't have to have scotch every time you get together with your kilt friends. And did I mention the free kilt inspections? There's motivation for you right there. So, till tomorrow, we may talk about kilt pins some more, making stuff, and other cool things like that. Who knows? Just depends on what I come up with. See you tomorrow. Be strong. Put a kilt on.